So just recap, Dale Smith, Group CEO of SDDE Smith Group. Delighted you're able to join us today, Dale, and really excited and intrigued. Obviously, I know a little bit about the journey. We've helped you on that, which is great to be part of. But it'd be great for you to share your success and your story with everyone today. So perhaps you can just begin, Dale, by telling us about yourself and giving us a bit of a background and a history to the group.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. So SDD Smith Group, we started really in 2017 with our first holiday home, which was in Saltburn. Before then, our background had been in the corporate world in the motor industry, but investors in buy-to-let property, some commercial property, dipped our toe in the water in holiday lets in 2017, and that's what started our journey today, really. So the SDD Smith Group is 11 client-facing brands. Everything we do is focused around property and real estate. So, arguably one of our most well-known brands in the group is Host and Stay, which manages just over 700 holiday homes, mainly in the north of the UK, but we are spreading further afield as well. That journey started in 2017 with our first holiday let and has grown exponentially, really, over the five years since then. I think we ended 2018 on 9 properties, so in 4 years we've grown from 9 to 700. And obviously our revenues have kind of followed that. So the group posted revenue just over 16 million last year, which was up from 6 million year prior, up from 2 million the year prior to that. So we've been growing at sort of 3x a year over the last few years. So it's been an interesting journey and a fast-paced journey so far.
Definitely. So, I mean, excuse me, clearly some fantastic successes along the way, but what would you pick out as the kind of the main highlights so far?
I suppose we were touching on football there to begin. I think from a top line point of view, being able to do some of those things, partnering with the likes of Middlesbrough Football Club, with Sheffield Wednesday being tier 1 sponsors, in those type of clubs has been a massive thing for us in being able to elevate our brand. But probably one of the proudest things for us is we are a Teesside business. And over 55% of our 300 plus colleagues are actually based in Redcar and Cleveland. So we are a really localized employer. So for us, creating job opportunities, seeing people, move and progress through the business as we continue to grow, that's probably one of the proudest things for us so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that, Dale, maybe you can tell us about some of the recent developments, particularly I'm thinking with the football club and the entrepreneur fund that you've kind of recently launched as well.
Yeah, so we got involved with Redcar Athletic Football Club last year. I grew up playing football at Redcar Athletic. Gary, who's our group COO and MD of Woodsmith Construction, he started there, plus a couple of other people in the business as well, started playing football there. So for us to get involved and take over at Redcar last year has been an interesting journey, a little bit different to the standard business journey, let's say. But again, we've done that because we want to have an impact locally. We're passionate about Redcar and Cleveland. We think there's more to be had and more to be done in Redcar and Cleveland. And one of the key things for us is when we were looking at a lot of the data on small businesses, on entrepreneurship, Redcar and Cleveland per capita has 2,500 new businesses fewer than what it should have when you compare it to the rest of the UK. So for us, that's an issue. We want to see people, young entrepreneurs in general, people who perhaps feel like they haven't been able to start their own business or don't know where to turn or haven't had the opportunity. We want to support that. So we've launched the Entrepreneurship Fund, which will be a 6-figure fund for people to apply to who've got a new or startup business. And we want to help them with funding, with mentorship, general support and guidance to try and grow that number of startups in Redcar and Cleveland.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, really, really good to see that you're so grounded, giving back to the local community, and you've got those roots really, firmly in the ground in the local community. It's brilliant to see.
No, thanks,
undoubtedly, of course, the CFO and the strong finance team you've now got in place are hopefully going to be part of that journey in terms of assessing those business applications. I suppose, without deviating from where we want to focus on too much, but what are the kind of people that you're looking to try and attract to access that fund?
So essentially, anybody with a new business, it doesn't have to have been formed immediately. It can be a young and growing business, but based in Redcar and Cleveland, or it could be someone who's got an idea and they don't know where to start. They can submit that idea and we'll help them on that journey of getting the business started, some early funding, some early guidance. So essentially it needs to be a new business in Redcar and Cleveland or someone with an idea based in Redcar and Cleveland. They'll be able to apply on the Redcar Athletic website, which actually our new website goes live on Wednesday this week. So they'll be able to apply on the website and pick up from there.
Fantastic. We'll look out for that, and we'll share it appropriately when that comes out. That's super to hear. What have been the key challenges associated with growing and scaling the business so far then, Dale?
Lots really, I suppose, because we've been growing so quickly. We're essentially restructuring the business all the time from a people and from a process perspective. So I'll often talk to our guys that we're not restructuring frequently out of want of doing so. I suppose we're doing it out of necessity to make sure the business has got the right structure, the right processes in place to be able to keep on growing. So with that becomes a consistent need for more experience, more knowledge into the team. And that's certainly been a big thing for us over the last 12 months. Cash flow obviously is another key element in terms of a growing business with revenues increasing as exponentially as they have been for us. It's all about that redeployment of capital for us. So we're always looking 2 and 3 years ahead. So we're not trying to make the best return we possibly can in the 12-month period in which we're in. We're looking to keep on increasing that return in the years ahead. Hence some of the kind of bigger tier one deals that we've done in the football sector to really raise the brand profile of Host and Stay and create that halo effect. Those are big capital investments that we're not going to get payback on in just one fixed year. We're looking for that to raise our brand profile over a number of years. But because we are self-funded, we're trying to do it under our own steam. We have to be resourceful and therefore cash flow is a constant balance and juggle for us from that point of view. But we feel that's the way to do it. What we don't want to do is go and raise external investment, dilute the business and kind of get lazy from a capital point of view. We want to make sure we're getting everything out of it we possibly can. So people, process and cash flow are definitely kind of the three big things for us that are, ongoing challenge, but good challenge, I suppose, to have.
Super. And I know that some of those are certainly the mantra of the CFO we help to introduce the business. We'll come back to that later, and certainly be interesting to hear about the challenges as you continue to grow, whether that is still the strategy that you'll maintain moving forwards. But tell me about how the finance team has evolved over that period of time then.
So Ben Duncan came in as our kind of first finance director. I think Ben joined us in late 2018. So at that point in time, say we were few £100,000 turnover business really, and Ben's been in that FD role with us until our recent changes and helped grow the business from say several £100,000 to £16 million turnover. And all credit to Ben. Ben, I think, is only 26 as of today, so he's done that in his early 20s, which has been phenomenal and been a massive help for me. And we've gone from the business being a handful of people to several hundred during that time. However, as that business has developed, we've needed really to bring in more experience, and with where our ambitions are to go in the next few years, we've needed to bring in external knowledge and experience into that finance function and kind of really evolve it. And what I suppose we've ended up with now is kind of two views on it. So the CFO who's now come in to join us, his focus is obviously on the day-to-day, but very much focused on from today forwards and what does that journey look like and everything we need in place to go on that journey that we're going on next. And then we've also brought in a new group financial controller who again focuses really running the day-to-day, but making sure our processes, again, our infrastructure, our systems, and those key financial foundations are in place so that we can continue to grow as we move forward. And the balance of those two guys in the business has been brilliant for us in the first quarter of this year. Now we're obviously trying to create those foundations to keep on building because we've got ambitions to keep on growing revenue in the next 3 years as we look to where we want to be by the end of 2025.
Yeah, super stuff, and really interesting and insightful that several 100,000 turnover. You had the foresight to bring in a finance director. You knew where you were heading, but I imagine that growth journey was particularly stressful for Ben. Credit to him and what he's done. Obviously, Ben is still within the management team, but now CCO? Is that
So
right?
Ben's
Chief Commercial
commercial,
Officer?
yep. So Ben's commercial
Yeah,
director for the group and for Host and Stay as well. Obviously knows the business inside out, back to front. He's been
yeah.
involved in it since its infancy, really. So his role is key now in a blend of kind of finance and operations as well, which is a good mix of his skill set.
Yeah, good. And what I suppose what were the challenges that he faced over that time then, or did the finance function, growing at the pace you were?
Uh, Recruitment of people, trying to get
Mm,
the right skill sets. I think we probably all know across the finance sector trying to get the right people in with those right skill sets is difficult. We seem to have a bit of a limited talent pool at the moment across the finance sector, and whether that's a UK thing or a Teesside or a Northeast thing, that's been one difficult challenge for us. And again, needing to bring in probably a little bit more experience into the team, and also having probably a blend of what I would call financial and operational knowledge mixed with actually good bookkeeping and accounting skill set and knowledge. And I think that's one thing we've probably not had as good a blend at both of those as what we would have liked to have done. Again, I think we're just under 20 legal entities at the moment, so that can become quite complex. A lot of intercompany transactions. Again, trying to get people that have dealt with that volume of transactions, that volume of intercompany, a little bit of a niche skill set when you've got that group structure now. So yes, certainly trying to get the right people with the right knowledge and skill set to come into a fast growing team as well, when things
yeah.
might not be, processes might not be in place. So you're coming into a team where you need to be creating the processes, because it's not a legacy business, it's a startup business ultimately, and trying to get people in who've got knowledge but quite willing to get stuck back in at the deep end and impart some of the things that they might have been doing several years ago, and kind of coming back to the ground level and starting again.
Yeah, that's it. It's kind of the capacity, the resource, the capability, the skills to constantly be dealing with the business as usual, but then actually reinventing constantly new processes to facilitate the continued growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely
Absolutely.
difficult. And the challenges then for the finance team and that they faced, how did they impact you as a CEO?
Um, I suppose it's timely information to be able to make decisions. I think that's one of the key things for us now, growing at the rate we have been, is timely financial information so we can make decisions in a timely manner, rather than making decisions based on historical data. So I think that's been one of the big challenges for us is, right, can we get management accounts on time? Are they accurate? Can we trust them to make a decision off? If not, then that's going to potentially hinder the business, or it might make a decision that doesn't work out because we've made it on information that's wrong. So, we've been through that journey ultimately over the last couple of years of trying to get that information as quickly as we can do and as accurately as we can do. So with Stephen and with Reese coming in, that's been one of the key things for us, is making sure we're getting those management accounts and those weekly financial reports on time, but most importantly, is that information 100% accurate so we can make the right decision? So again, that again comes from right systems, right processes, right team in place to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know obviously you and I have known each other for a few years now, and I've obviously been aware of the plans and hopefully we've facilitated that part of that growth journey and got those people to get those processes right. But was there a final tipping point, or one particular thing that led you to a CEO thinking, right, now we need a CFO?
I think when we've really looked and said, right, from where we are now, so midway point through last year, setting our ambition. So Host and Stay as an example, our ambition by the end of 2025 is to get to up to 5,000 properties. To get to that 5,000, we're going to continue growing organically, but acquisition is going to be a key factor in that. We're looking and saying, right, by the end of 3 years, where do we want to be? What position do we want to be in? So, is an IPO the right route for us? Well, if that's the case, then there's going to be a whole load of things that we need to put in place from a corporate governance point of view, again, from a structure point of view, in every one of our brands in the business overall, that we need to get ready for. If we prepare in that way and an IPO isn't the right mechanism for us, and we're either looking at bringing on external investment from a VC perspective or private equity or whatever it may be, it's about how do we get the business in the best possible position 3 years from now and setting that kind of marker. Well, what do we need to do? And ultimately that was the trigger point for us to say, look, we do need to bring in a CFO that's been there, done it, worked with varying sizes of businesses, worked in PLCs, so they can bring that knowledge and impart that on our business, our team, to bring us up to that level, so we can go on that journey. And that's been the key trigger point for us. And it's a difficult one where we're pretty open as a business. We're evolving all the time. We've got no kind of hard set exit point. All we're looking at is, right, how do we get the business in the best possible shape? And how do we make sure the business is in the best possible shape today versus where we need to be in a few years' time? So, things such as we developed our ESG strategy as a group last year. We could have waited another 12 months, probably 18 months for that before we actually need to, absolutely report on those metrics. But we want to do things the right way. So we did that, and now it's a core and fundamental part of our business. This year, every single one of our brands and entities is going through ISOs. And they'll be doing 4 of the ISO qualifications, so that by the end of 2023, we'll have those robust processes in place. We'll have those certifications in place. Again, we don't need to do that. It's a big investment from a group, but we want to do that because we want to make sure that our business is being run the right way and we've got those foundations and fundamentals in place. So having the experience around the table, CFO being kind of one of those leading roles on our group board, was that trigger point, because again, we want to see the business grow, but we want to grow it properly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just mind-boggling that the pace at which the business is evolving, and really fascinating journey, and brilliant to see you being so proactive and bringing in the people that understand what good looks like, and being proactive about putting in all the right systems, processes, procedures to facilitate that growth, whilst maintaining the business. Really, beyond the CFO, is there anybody else that you look to as far as they've been there, seen it, done it? Perhaps business mentors.
Yes, but I suppose to me, I've got kind of 2 key people that I've had in the past. So one, I was fortunate enough to play golf in America on a golf scholarship. So my golf coach out there is still a key person I speak to really regularly. He is a caddy now on the PGA Tour rather than the golf coach, and he's been a golf agent as well. But he's well versed from a business point of view and just general life experience. So he's always a go-to for me in terms of bouncing things off, ideas, etc. And then for me, my background, as I said earlier, in the corporate world was in the motor industry, and I worked under Peter Vardy up in Scotland. So Peter was a key mentor for me. So many things in our business now that I adopt and employ that Peter taught me in Scotland, employed in his business up there. So still close to both of those guys, and we'll speak to them on a regular basis to bounce things off. And then obviously we're a family business, so my dad is also key, keeps me grounded and always asks those challenging questions. Some I agree with, some I don't agree with. But ultimately you need those people around you to keep asking you the hard questions. That's what you need ultimately.
Yeah, I think it's a moment for realization that most CEOs go through, though, isn't it? To think, I think it was watching Wimbledon one year that did it for me. That was, you're looking at Andy Murray. He's got a fitness coach, a technical coach, a conditioning coach, a nutritionalist, and you think, wow, all these super successful sports people surround themselves with people who have more knowledge than they have.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely perfectly acceptable to continue to develop your own experience, your own skills, your own knowledge through having that mastermind group of people around you. And I think that's an enlightening moment when, as a CEO, you realise that yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely you need it.
In terms of then the CFO being in place, what have been their most significant impact so far? And I appreciate you're still early in that journey, but how have they changed things so far?
I think in terms of really looking at better integrated business planning. So one of the key things that Steve has brought in is integrated business plans across the group, because our entities are pretty complex and all a little bit different, but a lot of them work hand in hand. And now at our scale, every pound, every percentage makes a difference. So being able to have a business plan that we can easily manipulate to see what the impact of that is makes it so much easier for us to, again, make decisions. So as an example, in our host and stay business, you think 1% occupancy change across 700 properties actually makes quite a big impact on our bottom line. An extra 0.25 average length of stay in that business, again, makes a big difference on our bottom line. In our legal business, we try and run things where we have a really heavy headcount on productives. So we're not a legal business with loads of secretarial roles within it. So we're relying on our fee earners being self-sufficient in what they do. So productivity is a key metric for us. So our business plan this year in Graysmith Legal is heavily stacked on colleague productivity and getting those measures in place. So some of these things we knew and understood previously, but they weren't really well integrated into our business planning and into our budgeting. And to be able to, run that over a 6 month, a 12 month, a 36 month period and see the impact of that, Steve has really got into the detail of that and been, quick to understand the business. And I would say our business is relatively complex because we're heavily operational, lots of people, lots of moving parts. And to be able to distill that down into, really well integrated business plans has been something we've been able to make some early decisions on in Q1, which we know will have a positive impact on this year's P&L.
Yeah, and for such a, as you say, a complex business, to get those quick wins that are so fundamental to actually the continued growth and information is really key. And anything else that's been a quick win of a small tweak?
I think people, Paul as well. So with Steve coming in, Reese coming in as group financial controller, those two have worked really well together. Tried to work together in the past, hadn't quite worked for them for various reasons. So those two now, as a team, with Reese focus on really getting the day-to-day operating really well, and Steve supporting on that, but with an eye to the future. Those two working together with actually a number of new people coming into the team and getting them embedded really quickly, settled really quickly, has had a really big positive impact on the business as a whole. And again, Steve has also supported on a number of acquisitions. We've already completed on 2 acquisitions in the first quarter, and we've got a third acquisition that we're close to completion on at the moment. So again, having Steve's experience of having been through numerous acquisitions in the past, being able to ask the right questions from a DD point of view, and perhaps some of the things that we perhaps weren't thinking about, again, has had a positive impact so far.
Yeah, super. So has Steve then allowed you to reduce some of the reliance on external advisors, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely, because he's brought that external perspective that before we had to rely on external people for, because we just didn't have that knowledge and experience in house. Now with having Steve as part of the team, don't get me wrong, we still are using external advisory, but Steve does replace a lot of that and probably has more superior knowledge to some of those that we would have used historically as well. So again, gives us a different dynamic.
Yeah, I know you've already touched on parts of this, but are there anything else that your new CFO has brought to the strategic planning as far as the continued growth is concerned?
So really being able to pull in those 3-year plans for us. So we've set our objectives 3 years, but we didn't necessarily have the financial planning in place of where we wanted to get to. However, that's now becoming more crucial as we look at better funding routes. So debt funding is something that's been relatively minimal in our business versus what the growth has been, but it's something that we are now looking to do more of as we continue to grow the group, as we continue to make more acquisitions. So we need better MI, better financial planning to make sure we can get those facilities over the line. Again, something that Steve has been working on and has made a good impact for us on.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being investment ready at the point of requiring investment, rather than going out to the external sources of funding and then saying, well, we need this, we need that, and it's going to take you 6 months to get there. Yeah, it sounds like you'll have a really clean bill of health, and I'm sure you won't be short of people willing to invest in the business should you need it. Is there any prescribed route, or are all options open as far as financing that continued expansion?
We're trying to do as much under debt as we can do, Paul, really. So funding specific acquisitions, because actually it's the organic growth. The business is self-funding in a lot of the organic growth that it's had so far and that it will continue to get. So for us, it's the funding of the M&A growth ultimately, because we know to get the business to where we want to be in 3 years' time, acquisition is a key part of that, and we need the funding to be able to do that, to compete with some of the bigger businesses that are most likely VC backed. Horse and Stay World, our 3 biggest competitors are all VC owned, where we are now the largest independently owned holiday home management business in the UK. So for us to compete with those guys in acquisitions, cash readiness is a key thing for us. But we're trying to do as much of that under debt as possible because again, we want to save our equity investment for the time we really need it when the business is as valuable as we can get it under our own steam or under the debt route ultimately.
And is it a competitive world? Are those other three major players out there looking at the buy and build strategy that you guys have?
Yeah, they ultimately they've consolidated the market massively over the last 3 to 5 years. So they would have been, probably roll the clock back 3 years ago, there would have been probably another 5 to 10 businesses at our size or bigger. And now for us to be effectively us at just over 700 properties, the next parent company after that is probably about 11,000 properties. So the void now is huge. The market is really fragmented, and you've probably got probably another 20 businesses from sort of the 500, which is the next largest underneath us, down to 200 properties, and you've just got tens and tens at 25, 50 properties. So, really fragmented marketplace now. So it makes the consolidation tougher.
But if there are landlords that might be watching this with that kind of size property portfolio that are looking for an exit strategy themselves, would that be of interest to you to grow your property portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. We'd be interested in that for sure.
Yeah, super. And I suppose one final question then, Dale. What advice would you give to a CEO, a business owner in the local area who's considering building their finance team and hiring, a finance leader, a CFO, an FD? What would your advice be?
I think it comes back to trying to get the right people into the business at the right time and probably ahead of time as well. So really thinking about what does next year or 2 years or 3 years look like, and who do you need in the team at that point in time, and can you bring them in early? I think that's one of the key things for us, certainly on the finance function front, and probably on a number of roles across the group. Is there a way you can bring those people in early and grow the business with them rather than bringing them in later? I would certainly say that. And one of the key things for me with our finance function, and that I really try and drive home all the time, is that our finance team need to be into the operations. They need to understand the business. They need to understand the nitty gritty. What we don't want is a finance function that just reports numbers. They need to understand where those numbers are coming from, what impact they have on the business, why that number is what it is, not just that it is that number. So, that's the thing that I truly believe why we've been able to grow is our finance function is well integrated to the operational teams. Always has been and needs to continue to be as we continue to grow. And I do think some businesses end up with finance functions that are purely reporting functions, but I'm a big believer they need to be integrated into the operational teams.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you've said there. The CEOs, the business owners that we work with are proactive, recognizing that it might take up to 12 months to get that right person in the finance function to lead that. And one of the key questions that I find our clients ask is, tell me how you've translated financial numbers into operational and commercial strategy. And getting that person that is able to do that is not just a numbers person, not just a financial reporting function, but a key ally to you to be able to make those strategic business decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dale, that's an absolutely wonderful whistle-stop tour of the growth of SDDE and the impact of a CFO on your journey. Thanks so much for being so open with us and our audience today. If anybody would like to get in touch with Dale, we'll be happy to, particularly if you've got a property portfolio that you might be looking to cash in on, we can put you in touch with Dale and the team at SDDE Smith Group. But just remains for me to say, Dale, thanks so much for your time today. Great to have you with us.
Cool. No, thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me. It's been great chatting.
Super stuff. See you soon.
See you soon, mate. Thank you.
Take care.